I'm Joe Oracle, and this is the triple soulmate theory. How did I come about this, you ask? Well, I was reading the Seth book, The Unknown Reality. By the way, great book. I believe it was volume 1 or volume 2. Either one has a exercise where you go through a door into a place that you've never been before that is within your consciousness. So basically, you wander around your consciousness into a place that you haven't been before. And that night I had a dream, and the dream was very exhaustive with a lot of information. I will share all of that with you over time. So the first piece is this triple soulmate theory. You have 3 soulmates. You don't just have one. And that's good news and also bad news. So we're here to sort of learn the rules about which soulmate does what and which soulmate you most likely to encounter. So the rules of soulmate are a bit different than maybe what you had expected, what a lot of people think, etc. Again, this is just my information that I was given, so take it with a grain of salt, but this has been absolutely dead on with everybody that I've ever talked to. So you don't just have one soulmate, you have 3. And you're likely to get a soulmate when you need one. In other words, if you're on your own path and you're really not looking for someone or you're really not ready for someone, you're most likely not going to meet a soulmate during that time. I mean, a lot of times, let's say we're working 60 hours a day or 60 hours a week, right? You're just plug it in 12 hours a day. You really don't have time for someone else. Life is too busy, or maybe you're just angry. A lot of times we're just mad at the opposite sex or the same sex, and we just don't want to deal with it. So a lot of times you're bitter or angry. A lot of times you're too busy. There's a variety of reasons that you would detract or you push away the possibility of a soulmate. But when you are ready, you have a likelihood of having a soulmate. Now, you can have all 3 during your lifetime. You can have 2 physical soulmates during your lifetime, but you basically have a physical, a mental, and an emotional. And I'm going to split these out in videos because I want to be exhaustive. I don't want to rush through it, right? I don't want to rush through it and leave out something and everybody has questions. So I'm going to be extremely exhaustive about the physical soulmate. So you encounter a soulmate because you have unresolved issues or an unresolved life with someone else in a previous life. So you never really closed the deal. You never really said goodbye in a previous life or in a previous instance of yourself. So you attract that particular person, and that particular person will be sort of your physical soulmate across the realms or across the lives, etc. So it's important to understand that the physical soulmate is most likely to be what you think of or what most people consider a soulmate, right? And the movie that I consider, I've watched a lot of movies. I haven't watched them all. So Lost in Translation is sort of the physical soulmate movie for me. That's the movie that really connects this, right? So physical soulmate, it feels like you've touched before. So let's zoom in here a little bit so we can get into the text. Sorry for the shaky cam. So sorry for the lighting as well. I got a dude across the street that's staring at me. It's really creepy. Anyway, so feels like you've touched before. So one of those things to where you touch someone and you're instantly comfortable. You're instantly comfortable with that, right? You know you've touched them, and it's an electrifying touch too, the electric touch. It's like, whoa, this is really, really, and this is what most people call the bang, right? That instant attraction or that instant thing. It's because you've touched this person before. You've been with this person before. You know what they like. You know the types of things. It's one of those things to where you'll get someone, you'll get into a relationship and you'll be massaging their back and you do it perfectly. It's just weird. It's like you've done it before and you don't even think about it, right? But it feels like that you've touched before. And in addition, you know what your partner likes. There's, as far as in bed or again, just if they like to hold hands, you just hold their hand. A lot of people don't hold hands, right? But sometimes you just hold someone's hand, a partner's hand, for no reason. You just feel like it feels right. And that's one of those things. You know that they like their hands held, or you know that they like whisper in the ear, or whatever, right? Or certain activities in bed, you know what they like. It's an instant attraction. So it's easy. This is the easy, super easy relationship. It's easy to start. It's easy to keep going. It doesn't keep going long a lot of times, but it's easy to do that. And the second thing is you're constantly touching. And that's one thing that you'll see with physical soulmates. They'll just touch each other, right? It's just this weird thing where they're just touching or they're about to touch. And that's another thing, they're about to touch. When people see physical soulmates together, it's really awkward. It's really awkward to be around, right? You feel like you need to leave and leave them alone. So you've seen that before, right? Where two people have this weird connection and you feel like they're about to just start making out any second. Even though that they're just standing there, you're just like, something's up, between these two. That it feels like they're about to start making out or about to, get on the floor and strip or, something. It's awkward to be around because you feel like a third wheel, right? You're like, I feel really awkward around these two people. And that's because they're physical soulmates. And even if they're not touching, it's like their energy is touching. Does that make sense? So their energy is going, even though they're not going. And that's what I have. The air is thick when they're together. And if you watch Lost in Translation, if you've never seen that, by the way, absolutely rent it. Jesus, that's a good movie. Okay, so Lost in Translation, right? When they're arguing and stuff like that, it's so awkward. It's so awkward because you're like, these two shouldn't be arguing, right? And it's like so awkward. And when they're together in the bed, in this one scene, they're together in the bed, right? But they're not doing anything. They're just sort of laying there talking. And he's telling her about kids. And the air is just thick. You're just like on the edge of your seat waiting for, them to start making out. It's really, really awkward to watch because the air is super thick within there, right? So this is one of those things. This is a physical soulmate. And that's what Lost in Translation sort of represents, is a physical soulmates, but, they're not going to be together. And that's what makes the movie so awkward, and that's what keeps you watching. That's what keeps you on the edge of your seat, because she's married and he's married, and they know they shouldn't do anything, but the air is so thick around them. Anyway, excuse me. So the next thing, after a breakup, you get back together. That's physical soulmates in action, right? You break up, it's a heated breakup. It's like, like you're stressed, everything goes wrong. And in the negative section, when it goes bad, it goes really bad. And it does. The breakup usually goes really bad. But after the breakup, they usually get back together. And the problem is you're so connected to this person. You're so passionate, loved with this person that you miss that. You go to a regular relationship after this is over, it doesn't compare. You're like, what am I doing? Give me this other person back. Come back. And you'll get back together. And it's because nothing else compares. The relationship is, again, so easy, so simple. You don't have to work at it. You don't have to work at it at all. It just happens. It's just there, and you miss it when it's gone because you go to a regular relationship. They're not soulmates, you don't really feel that connected. There's not that spark. Where's that other guy, right? The other guy was amazing. So it's likely to get back together. Lastly, in the positive, they're most likely to have kids. So physical soulmate, if you're going to have a kids in a soulmate, it's most likely going to be the physical soulmate, because naturally you're just going to, just naturally things progress in a physical soulmate relationship, and you're most likely to have kids because you think it's going to work. It's got to work. This is so amazing. What you don't realize is all the negatives. First negative, it's usually short term. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break it to you. I'm sorry. I know, man. It's usually short term. And what I mean by short term is they get on your nerves pretty quick. So that's the way it goes. A lot of times it's because the emotional or mental side could be awkward. It could be weird. You're like, I don't really connect emotionally to him. I don't really connect emotionally to her, or whatever. Sometimes it's just awkward, or you really don't have anything to talk about. You like the physical. The physical is amazing. It's the best physical you've ever had. But, after it's done, you're like, what are we going to do now? Because it's awkward to talk about it. Maybe you don't have things in common. Maybe you're not mentally paired. You could be. A lot of people have a physical soulmate, and they sort of work through the emotional and work through the mental, right? You're like, all right, let's work through the emotional crap. You have these problems, I have these problems, let's talk it through. A lot of times it can go right, but a lot of times it doesn't. Again, when it goes bad, it goes really bad. A lot of passion in the pluses and a lot of passion in the minuses. It's not because you're an overly passionate person. It's because, wow, that was a relationship. And what the hell just happened? It went to trash. Why? So that's when it goes bad, it goes really bad. And again, you have to work through the emotional and mental. You have to do it. You got to do it, or it's doomed. It's doomed. And the last negative is you're most likely to cheat. I'm sorry. And here's why. Here's why. You're saying, why would you cheat? It's the most passionate relationship I've ever had. Why would I cheat? Well, let me tell you. Because of the false hopes and that physical high that you got from that person. You're like, all right, I met Fred. Jesus, that was a relationship. It's such a passionate, amazing. And so then you have the short term and everything goes bad and you ditch Fred. So now you're looking at, let's say, Dan. And you're like, oh, man, this is so amazing. I bet Dan's the same way. Well, no, Dan's not the same way. Sorry. I'm sorry. Dan's not the same way as Fred was. It's not that passion. It's not that amazing. It's not going to be like that. But you don't know that because you didn't watch this video and you didn't know what a physical soulmate was. And now you think that Dan's going to be just as great as Fred was, and it's not. So it's one of those things, when it starts going bad, it goes really bad. Now you're looking at Dan because you have that false hope. You're like, oh man, such a great relationship. I'm going to hop over to this new relationship since this one sucks now. And then, so that's why you're likely to cheat, because you had such a passion with Fred and Dan sucks. But that's the way it goes. So you have that false hopes, you have that high of the relationship. You're coming off that high. You're like, wow, that was amazing, right? It's like when you do sports or something and you do like an amazing play, and you're doing football and you do this amazing play, and then you try it again and you just utterly fail. Or you're doing art and you do an amazing painting. It's the best painting you've ever seen, man. And you go, yes, I'm the master of painting. So you break out another canvas and you paint crap. You paint the worst thing you've ever seen in your whole life, and then, it's just trash. Anyway, so, yes, that's the physical soulmate, my friends. I'm going to split these into different videos because I'd rather be more exhaustive with each video and not rush through it and let you understand the highs and the lows, the scenes of the movies that were important, etc., etc. It's one of those things, man. It is one of those things. So Again, Physical Soulmate. If you have any questions, please ask. I'd love to answer all the questions that I can. I've tried to include everything that I could think of. Be sure to pick up Jane Roberts' book, The Unknown Reality, if you really want some unusual exercises to do and some unusual stuff to read, for sure. Thank you for watching. Please hit like and subscribe.